Prepare thyself for a rant. Hi, my name is Kim, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I am an avid reader and follower of the book prizes such as the Booker Prize, the International Booker, the Women's Prize, as well as Canada Reads. I enjoy reading recently published fiction, and today I'm going to be talking about my first book of 2024 and why it took me 8 books to get there, as well as my reading goals and plans for this year. So let's get talking about all of those books. Have you ever fallen into a reading slump? I tend to navigate these murky waters after the announcement of a book prize winner. My reading reset is to turn to cozy thrillers by the wonderful writers of Tana French and the dynamic duo of Nikki French. I enjoy their standalone works as well as their series. If you haven't read them, I would highly recommend Tana French's Dublin Murder Squad series, as well as Nikki French Frida Klein series. After filming my best books of 2023, which I will link in the description box below, I found myself in a reading slump. 2023 was such an amazing year for me, not only in terms of how many great books I read, but also how wonderful the long lists were. I agonized over narrowing down the 92 books I read last year to only 16, and then ranking them. From my list of best books, only 2 were not from book prizes. From the International Booker, there were 6 novels in the top 16, 4 from the Booker, and 4 from the Women's Prize. Now, in past years, I have struggled with acquiring the International Booker books, but last year was a stellar one, and I was able to acquire all but 1 book. I still have 2 books to read from the International Booker, 3 from the Booker, and 3 from the Women's Prize long list. But I digress. So let's get back to the first book of 2024 and why it took me 8 books to get there. I went back to my favorites and started reading Faithful Place by Tana French, which is the 3rd book in the Dublin Murder Squad series. And then I thought to myself, no, this is 2024. I can do better than this. So I explored my to-be-read shelves and pulled 2 books by Attica Locke's Highway 59 novels. She is a new-to-me author, and I really want to strive to read more diversely. I have Bluebird, which is published in 2017, and the next novel, Heaven, My Home, published in 2019. So I started reading Bluebird, and read the first chapter, which was a whole 26 pages. I enjoyed the first chapter, but I didn't have the same level of excitement over a new book and a new writer that I usually do. I will absolutely read these 2 books in the future, but they felt like a not for me at the moment series. Now, Simon Savage of Savage Reads announced his prompts for 2024, and I realized that I had the perfect candidate for January, and the prompt is read a book with a snake on the cover. So I picked up The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Now, I adore the Hunger Games series, both the books and the movies. Now, I started a reading vlog last year in which I reread or listen to the Hunger Games series, which consists of The Hunger Games, followed by Catching Fire, and then Mockingjay, which is no small feat. I listened to over 35 hours of audiobooks, which was narrated beautifully by Carolyn McCormick, and I also watched all four movies, which was an absolute pleasure because I have watched these movies over and over again. I bought The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in 2020 when it was first published, and then I didn't read it, despite being so excited for it, which is something I frequently do, but I digress. The movie came out last November, and I really wanted to read the book before I watched the movie, so I started it. book 4 of 2024, and I read the first 3 chapters, a total of 47 pages, and I just couldn't get into it. The movie reviews haven't been that favorable either, and I was really hoping for a 5-star read to kick off this year. So I put it down, and I decided to turn to the last 3 books from the Booker Prize of last year that I haven't read. I started The House of Doors by Tan Tang Ing and raced through it. At the same time, I picked up A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo and started it. My physical book club will be discussing it shortly, and I really wanted to finish it. However, it is a slow burn of a novel, and one that I found I could only read in small sections. Now, I stopped reading The House of Doors a few chapters from the end because I heard the ending was quite a shock, and I knew I needed to get my thoughts down on paper for a future video, in which I read The House of Doors, A Spell of Good Things, and All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. And these are the 3 books from the Booker Prize longlist that I have left to read, and that will be a reading vlog coming to you shortly. So that puts me at 6 books started in 2024 and still not one finished. Now, one of my reading goals for this year is to read more of past prize lists because I tend to read all the shiny new things, and past book prizes offer a wealth of great books. So I went back to my TBR shelves and pulled 2 books by Samantha Sherwin. I flipped through Fever Dream, translated by Megan McDowell, and it was shortlisted for the International Booker in 2017 and considered a classic that sadly I have not read. I also have a copy of Little Eyes, translated by Megan McDowell, and it was longlisted for the International Booker in 2020. Her last book, 7 Empty Houses, which is a short story collection, and it's available to me through an audiobook. It is narrated by 7 different people, one for each story. I started reading Little Lies and thought, yet again, this is a good, but it's not knocking my socks off. However, I'm almost done the audiobook of 7 Empty Houses, but not yet. So, reading 3 of Samantha Schwebum's books will be a video coming to you shortly. That puts me at 8 books and not one finished, including 1 audiobook. This was really not the way that I wanted to start off the new year, but that's life. However, in comes Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro, which is translated by Frances Riddle, and it was shortlisted for the International Booker in 2022. She is a new to me writer, and let me tell you, I devoured this book. This book was everything that I needed to kick off 2024 with a bang and then some. So let's talk Elena Knows. This is a short, sharp novel told in 3 parts and over the course of one day, starting in the morning, then midday, and then concluding with the afternoon. The main character is obviously Elena, an elderly woman and a very unlikely heroine who is navigating Parkinson's disease. And she has found out that her daughter, Rita, has hung herself in the belfry of her beloved Catholic Church. Elena does not believe that Rita has committed suicide and sets off to discover her daughter's killer. This is a no spoiler review, so let's move away from the plot and talk about structure and writing style. The structure of this novel is unique and very well chosen. The narrative is driven around the timing of Elena's pills and how she must carefully time out her medication and wait for it to release her, only for a short period from her debilitating disease, and provide her with a small amount of body freedom in order for her to find out what happened to her daughter. This is a brilliant structure, which creates an incredibly claustrophobic tension that propels the reader into Elena's world. It also enhances the relationship with the reader because the structure creates a trust with a believable character. I believe that Elena knows. Elena knows about her body, she knows about her daughter, and she knows what will happen, what happened to her. As the story unfolds, there are flashbacks to Elena's relationship with Rita from childhood to their last moments together, and it is brilliantly done. This book is told in the third person from Elena's point of view. The dialogue isn't traditionally punctuated. Instead, the dialogue is written in italics, which emphasizes the conversation as well as narrating Elena's world because it feels like you are hearing the dialogue in Elena's mind. Now, this novel is not for the faint of heart. My gosh, does it ever spotlight societal themes? It looks at three different lives of women, Elena, Rita, and Isabel, in terms of myths and reality of motherhood, individual freedoms over their own bodies and their own spirituality, the complex relationships between women, abortion rights and the lack of, the medical field and their disregard and abuse of women, the abuse of women by men, the abuse of women by women, and it's all done under a cloud of abuse and neglect by the Catholic Church and their priests. It is hard-hitting in the most intimate and poignant way, and I was all there for it. This is by far the best book of 2024 for me. It is a 5 out of 5-star read. I want to read everything by Claudia Pinheiro. I really think that she is going to become one of my favorite authors. There is also an afterword by Dr. Fiona McIntosh that is worth reading. And Claudia Pinheiro is one of two creators and screenwriters of a Netflix series called The Kingdom, which I'm really looking forward to watching. After reading Elena Knows, which came into my hands through my library, I picked up another book, Absolution by Alice McDermott. She is also a new-to-me author. I figured that I had a formula for success. However, even though I finished Absolution, I wish I would have DNF'd it. Very briefly, it's set in Vietnam just as the war is beginning and tells the story of the American wives. One of the wives is looking back at her time in Vietnam with a friend's daughter who was just a child during the war. I didn't find the characters believable, and their lack of maturity looking back at their colonial past and not owning up to it was very disappointing. I think a big factor as to why I didn't like this book was because I'm almost finished The House of Doors, and it is a cringy and brilliant colonialist novel, but that will have to wait for a reading vlog. So there you have it, the very best book of 2024, followed by the very worst book. So very briefly, some of my reading goals for 2024 are the following. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, I would like to read more books from past prizes. Number 2, I want to read more backlisted books from authors I love, like Claudia Pinheiro. Number 3, I want to conquer my Fitzcarraldo bookshelf. I love this press, and they have never put a book in my hands that I didn't love. I have lots of books by them, and I tend to get so involved in book prizes that they get left behind. But February is going to be Fitchuary. And lastly, number 4 goal is to read the last of the 2023 long list from the International Booker, the Women's Prize, and the Booker Prize. I will be covering Canada Reads this year, which takes place from March 4th to the 7th on CBC, and I will be filming a video explaining this amazing Canadian book debate and filming individual reviews of the 5 books. This year, as always, I will be following all the prizes I talked to you about today. However, I am on the fence about the new Women's Prize for Nonfiction. The long list will be announced on February 15th. I don't tend to read a lot of nonfiction, but this might be the opportunity to change that. I will look at the long list and I will go from there. Perhaps I will try to tackle the short list. The International Booker and the Women's Prize overlap in terms of when they take place, so that's a lot of books to read. As always, thank you very much for joining me. Please click that like button below, as well as on the bell, so that you know when I'm posting a new video. There is also a link to my Patreon, and if you are so inclined to put a tip in the tip jar. All these things help my channel, and I would very much appreciate it. I live in eastern rural Ontario, Canada, on a lake, and I will leave you with a very different world than in my last video. Winter has arrived, and it's not going anywhere. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.